Today's episode is sponsored by Sandals Resorts. What's up, Chillas? We have Brian Franklin back with us today. He is the co-founder of Vows and Speeches, wonderful company he founded with his wife, Nicole, after they were sick and tired of a bunch of crappy vows and speeches at weddings that they went to. Brian, can't wait to hear all of your stories from your first experiences today.
Thanks for having me, Leah. I'm glad to be here and excited to do this.
Yeah, it's been a lot. I think about a year since we last talked to you, so I'm sure a lot more has happened in the wedding space for you. And I'm sure personally as well. For those not familiar with you, can you just give a brief background about you and your company?
Sure. So we formed the company in 2021, and what we do is we help people write and rehearse their wedding vows, their wedding speeches, their ceremony scripts, and other kinds of speaking events as well, not just weddings, but we've done everything from bar mitzvahs to eulogies. And but at any rate, we help people personalize it. It's very, very high touch, extremely personalized stuff. We start with an interview. We give you unlimited revisions, and we just make sure you're happy and that you're confident going in. And
wasn't your original background as a political consultant or speechwriter for politicians?
Yep. Political consultant. Yeah. I did that for quite a while and got out of politics as quickly as I could.
Well, as you talked about on the show before, there's a lot of politics in weddings. So I'm sure you have a lot of intertwining in that way.
Yeah, we try not to allow that. You know, we discourage that greatly. But every once in a while, somebody really wants to do it, and we don't write it in the scripts, but they ad lib, and that's almost always uncomfortable.
So let's get to uncomfortable. Let's talk about some of the we're going to do the good, bad, and ugly, but let's start off with the ugly. So what are some things that you've seen done in Vows and Speeches that have just been downright atrocious, and how can we learn from it?
For the couples that are listening out there, and I presume that most people in your audience are couples or perhaps, people in the wedding party, but mostly couples. The biggest mistake that people make, I think, is not giving clear instructions to the wedding party speakers about what you want them to do, whether it's from the standpoint of length or if there are things that you don't want them to talk about. Don't assume that they know what they're doing. Don't assume that they have any clue what they're doing just because they're a good speaker or they're funny. People lose senses of judgment in these moments very easily, and especially with some cocktails.
Yeah.
And so putting guardrails around it is very important. And when you don't do that, you find that even in the most expensive of weddings, things can go horribly wrong. Thankfully, none of them are my clients. So when people hire us, part of the reason they're hiring us for other people, for their wedding party speakers, is to help them work through these moments and make sure they don't do these embarrassing things. But along the way, I have talked to wedding pro after wedding pro, all types of planners, mostly in the luxury or high-end space. And some of them are horrifying. Probably the most horrifying ones involve fathers of the brides. Or fathers of the grooms who, I don't know if it's a sense of entitlement. Perhaps they paid for it and they just feel like they own the microphone and can do anything they want. The biggest offense is time. 50-minute speeches is the record that I know of that's verified. I've heard longer, but I haven't verified it yet. There's a 7 or 8 way tie for 45, and within them, some of them are. It's even worse. Like one of them involved a skit where the father got a person to play a version of a child, like an imaginary childhood friend. It was like a peacock / platypus, something or another. And then had a Johnny Depp impersonator as Captain Jack Sparrow interview this peacock / platypus person about the bride, much to her horror. There was a story from a great photographer, Melanie Lest in New York, where she was at a wedding and the father of the bride disclosed that he and his son had gone to South America and visited a house of ill repute.
So it's not just in the movies that things like that happen.
Yes, it's not just in the movies. This actually happened. It destroyed the wedding. The best part is he disclosed they shared a prostitute. It really gets worse. It goes crazy. People don't think. And I don't know if that was a joke or not or true. I hope It wasn't, but at any rate, people, she crying, yelling, screaming. Uh, but then you have all types of other mistakes that people make. I mean, there's bad jokes. There was one that thankfully got stopped by a wedding planner, but the best man was about to do a speech where he had written imaginary love letters from the groom's exes to the groom.
Jesus Christ.
This one did happen. The best man had seated all of the groomsmen got them ready to have their keys out, and then said, anybody that slept with the bride, jingle your keys, right? And so all these guys jingled their keys. You have disclosures that are bad. Announcements of pregnancy that nobody knew about. There was one that where the groom was married before and nobody knew that, right? But like the best man said, I like you better than his first wife, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot that can go on. There's way more there. There's so many of them.
What is it with the ex thing? I do not understand why people think it's okay to bring up exes at the wedding. And you hear this time and time again. I've been to at least one wedding where it kind of got brought up. Luckily, it wasn't super in depth, but it was still uncomfortable. So I can only imagine what I think it was the groom bringing it up, or the groom's side, like the bride. But anyways, it's weird.
It might start with good intentions, like I really like you better than his ex, right? But now we're thinking about his ex or her ex, and it could be because they're jealous. I mean, I think there was one that the groomsmen talked about how the groom had slept with the best man's ex, and just disclosed that. So I think there's some level of sabotage that goes on when people get a few beers in them or whiskeys and start truth telling. And this is one of the instructions when we talk about what people should or shouldn't do. This is not a moment for confessional. You always have to keep your eye on the mission. The mission is to make this a wonderful moment for the couple and for the audience, and not to make anybody uncomfortable. And if you're going out there and you lose sight of that mission, you will mess up. And I have a lot of clients that don't like who they're talking about. It happens all the time.
It's like, how do they end up in the wedding party to begin with? I mean, I guess I can see if it's like a parent or a sibling, because that's kind of a forced situation in a sense.
Well, you might like your best friend, but you don't like their fiance, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a challenge. So, or you might not know them. And so you're just glossing over that whole section. But so there's different things that people do. One is they go too long, of course. Bad jokes is obviously one. Missed ideas. People don't practice. We can get into that in a bit. But then you have the inappropriate humor, the lack of balance that people have, where they only talk about their friend or their family member, and they don't give enough weight to the fiance or the now spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Going negative, of course, it happens. I mean, the main one is people start with, for those that don't know me. If you're getting married or you're going to be giving a speech, do not say, for those that don't know me. Please. It is the most painful phrase in all of weddingdom. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And it is so true. And I don't know where that came from. Like, how did that even become a thing in wedding speeches?
It must have been on a movie or something. I don't know. I mean, it drove me crazy before I was in the wedding industry. And then as soon as I got in the wedding industry and started talking to pros, every pro came up to me and they're like, just tell people not to say, for those that don't know me. It's what everybody says every single time.
Was that kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back that got you and Nicole to start Vows and Speeches?
It wasn't really, honestly, the straw that broke the camel's back was just not wanting to be in politics and looking at my skill set and saying, what in the world can I do remotely that would, fit what I know how to do. And and I had officiated a few weddings, and I do have a very short attention span, which, only medication can only help so far. And I do go crazy when I hear a bad speech or something too long. It drives me nuts, whether it's weddings or not. I'm like, you didn't get help. It's so obvious.
But why do you think they want to go so long? Like, who even has that kind of in him to speak for 45 minutes when it's not a TED Talk? Like, even TED Talks aren't that
And
long.
even if it's not 45 minutes, I think a lot of people, 5 minutes is pushing it. 10 minutes, way too long.
Isn't like 3 minutes the sweet spot?
3 to 4 minutes, yeah. I mean, if you're a father of the bride and you have to do 30 seconds or so of preamble where you're thanking everybody and welcoming them and isn't this beautiful and blah, 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 you'll give them maybe 5 with a minute of that stuff. But really 3 to 4 minutes is as much as you should do. It's as much as people, I think, can tolerate at one time. And you also have to consider there's probably going to be 4 speakers. So, 4 people at 10 minutes is a chunk of the wedding that shouldn't happen. And it's just way too big of a chunk to ask people to sit down. You've asked them to come and party. You've put them at a table with other people that they're supposed to like and talk to. And then you're going to ask them to be quiet and listen to a speech that's poorly constructed. I think the other thing is that people don't know to go short. They're not given those instructions. They don't think there's a penalty for doing so.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about this last time, but there should be like Oscars music that's played out, plays people out.
You're messing up the timeline.
Yeah, but 10 minutes goes by really quickly if you're just going off of bullets or you're just speaking extemporaneously. It happens fast. I talk a lot and it happens very quickly. Yeah, doesn't mean people are enjoying it.
Well, actually, to that point. So when you're giving a speech, it could either, if it's done right, it could fly right by. It's going to be like, that was 3 minutes. It seemed like 30 seconds. But if it's painful, it's going to be the longest 5 minutes of anyone's life.
Yeah. Rambling speeches, rambling long speeches, people are just sitting there, they're looking at their phones, it just goes nowhere. Most of the time, that's the problem. It just goes nowhere.
Yeah.
I really love you. They start telling inside stories. They speak in big generalities. You're one of the greatest people ever. You're not saying why, right? You're not telling the story that exemplifies that. And people look for the imbalance. They want to hear you address both of them. They want you to make them laugh and cry at the same time. And if you don't do that, you're kind of missing. And so if you're missing for 10 minutes, it's a lot worse than missing for 4.
Yeah. So what is the ideal way to choose who's going to speak at your wedding and the order that you should put them in?
If there is a traditional order, I think you should toss it out. You put people in the order of emotional impact and talent. So when I work with couples or wedding planners, sometimes they'll hire me for all 4 speeches. And it's great because I'll get to coordinate things. I'll know who's the best or the worst of the 4 of them. They'll all be good, but some of them will be shakier than others because they just have paralyzing fear or something like that. And so you don't want to put the shaky one after the person that's going to just rock it, and you'll scare them to death. And you also have an emotional letdown. You want it to crescendo. And so it's not to say you put the worst first, but I think you look at these things as you plot out the emotional journey of it. And it might be different if you're doing it in 2 and 2. Sometimes you'll see that. And so the number of speakers, I mean, I think ideally it's 3 or 4, but you can run into politics where you have a blended family and there's, the dad and the stepdad, or, there's things like that can happen, or you have 3 siblings that are all co-equal, or, that kind of thing. So I don't advise that people do co-speeches. That's one of the things I think is really difficult to do well. You see these like siblings, for example, they'll both get up and they'll trade off verses. Part of what makes for a good speech is the rhythm of it. And when people don't practice, you'll hear a certain cadence that is not conversational cadence. They're reading it word by word, and you can kind of tell, and it happens in little chunks. Sometimes it's words, sometimes it's phrases, but it's not a full sentence like you would if you were telling a story or you're just talking to somebody. Going back and forth between 2 people at a complementary rhythm and getting that timing right is extraordinarily difficult. It's
Yeah.
something that very few comedians can get done
Right.
well. Right.
Yeah.
So so that's something I think is hard to pull off well unless you're doing it in massive chunks. You could do like 3 or 4 paragraphs, then 3 or 4 paragraphs, and then it's that you can get away with, but not like the you do one line and I'll do one line, you do one paragraph.
Yeah, that has to be hard with the flow. Like, not everyone can be like a Steve Martin and Martin Short where you can just bounce off each other perfectly. It's especially if one person's more charismatic than the other. It's almost like they're a scene stealer.
Yeah, and that it takes a lot of rehearsal, which tends to not happen. It's one of the things we kind of force into the process. We give people multiple rehearsal sessions and we make them read it multiple times to us, and just you'll see massive differences between the first, whether it's vows or speeches or the ceremony. You'll see a development happen right in front of you just by doing it over and over again. And the other thing is that you want to have that emotional connection. So if I'm reading this to you and I'm talking about you, I may have to read it off the page, but I want to be fluent enough with it so that I can make eye contact with you at certain points. These are big moments, so you want to look people in the eye with it. You not just be buried in your page.
Yes.
Don't
Be
use
more
your phone.
engaging.
Don't ever use your phone.
It's happening more and more.
It should be banned. Every wedding planner out there that's listening, every couple, do not allow it. It ruins your photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one recently, and they did so well from a performance standpoint, but the entire time they're looking at their phone, it was a terrible video. You're paying for a videographer for these things. You want it to be good. So just make sure, have them do it off a piece of paper. Just tell them this is what we're asking.
I'm glad you brought up the importance of rehearsing because we think about the rehearsal and rehearsal dinner, like the actual ceremony rehearsal and where you need to go, which is very important, especially if you have a big wedding. But no one ever really talks about the importance of rehearsing that vow or speech.
I think anybody that does any kind of recording, like in podcasts, for example, or in music, understands that when you put something down in a recording, you're going to hear all of the problems with it, right? If you're speaking, when I speak extemporaneously, I do the uhs, I do the pauses, I kind of tend to stutter a little bit. It's just a thing I do. I can edit it out through rehearsing. If I know what I'm doing, if I know what I'm talking about, if I've said it enough times before, it's going to come out smoothly. If I'm really, really deliberate about it, I can control it. But it's hard. That's hard to do. And especially in these moments where they're very emotional. You might be talking about your daughter. You might be talking about your best friend, your sister, whatever it might be. The moment's hitting you. You want to have that underneath your belt so that you can just do it more automatically and be in the moment and not be like trying to figure out what the next line is.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I want to get back to just for a second about the confessional piece because I've had I think it's a big part of this. If you don't like the person you're talking about, if you don't like your child's spouse, or if you as the couple know that I don't have a great relationship with one person that's speaking, I think it behooves everyone to just say, look, this is not about how I feel. I know how you feel. This is about paying tribute to the moment. And so you do have to lie sometimes. I've had speakers, I've had kids that were talking about the husband's new, the new mom or the new wife, right? And and they did not like her at all, at all. And they struggled to find one good thing to say about her. But we had to come up with something because that's not okay. You can't get up there and just that's not why you're here, and that's not why that your dad hired me.
And that should also not be the first time that you are letting them know you don't like them.
Right.
Have those conversations ahead of time. Be communicative.
Or don't. Yeah.
Or just don't do the speech.
Right. Yeah. Or just be nice. Just come up with, in those moments, if you're speaking, you want to focus on how this person has made the person that you care about happy. The good changes that you've seen as a result of this person that you don't like, for whatever reason, there's got to be something positive. And if your friend's happy or if your relative is happy, focus on that, drive that point home, and use that as a way to talk about the person in a positive way. And then afterwards, you don't have to do anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What you do afterwards at the after party, that's, if you get drunk and spill your beans, that's your fault.
Oh my God. Like, I just can't imagine being in someone's wedding and having to give a speech and I don't like their significant other.
Yeah.
Like, to get to that point in the relationship is really hard.
Well, yeah, it's a lot. Look, it's a lot to ask. You would like to think that everybody that you love will have good taste in their spouses, right? Or their boyfriends or girlfriends or their, or whatever. And I mean, but at the same time, think about your friends and think about their spouses and how many of them would you marry?
Mm-hmm.
For whatever
Right.
reason, right? And there are times where they're not, it's not the best choice. Like not somebody I would want for you, or you have doubts or those things. And when you don't have somebody that has a lot of discretion, or somebody thinks that they can make it funny, then and they're not funny, then that's where it can go sideways.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't funny. They're a lot less funny than they think they are. And that's something we, hope, I know that we help with. And part of that is editing out bad jokes, things that people think are going to be really funny and it's just going to fall on its face.
And the thing too with inside jokes, maybe drop one, especially if it's you and the couple. But once you get past one, to me, again, it starts to get uncomfortable because everyone's just looking around like I have no idea what they're talking about.
Ask yourself, if you're the couple, who's going to be the problem? Who's going to say something inappropriate? Who's likely to say something inappropriate? Who's likely to think that this is their stand-up audition?
Mm-hmm.
And if you know that they're going to be good at it and they know that they have good sense about them, still be careful. But those that you're not sure about, those are the people you need to send my way, because those are the people that you're going to need somebody to help give them some oversight. And I think I said this last time, but our job, the things that we cover as part of our work is pretty much the last major part of the wedding that hasn't had any oversight. Everything else gets help.
Yeah.
And everything else is guided by people that want to make this as personalized and beautiful and make these moments shine. And I spent the first 3 years of this business talking about the disaster stories that we led with here, and they're great fun, and there's so many of them. But that's not what people are thinking about in this moment. If you're planning for your wedding, you're thinking about how great it's going to be. And you want it to be that great. And our job is to make it that great. And even when we're taking mediocre to excellent, and there was never a danger of somebody saying, disclosing how much the wedding cost or something like that. Which happened too.
Tacky.
Even when you don't have those dangers that are so acute, you just want it to be wonderful. Right? You just want it to be as good as it could be. And that's where people just need help.
You want to feel the love.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing that people need to think about is making sure that it's not, you're not looking at humor as I have to nail the big joke. You're saying something sentimental. If you do 4 minutes of complete serious sentimentality, it's going to be flat and boring. It's too much. It's too much to listen to. It loses its impact. What you want to do is look at it more like a concert set list or a song where you have these moments of dynamics and balancing off the sentimental parts with even very light humor, even a slight smirky kind of humor, a slight dad joke in the right place just provides a relief of that tension or that seriousness that allows you to kind of get, everybody kind of relaxes a little bit, and then you can get back into the sentimentality and make them cry again. And so you don't need a giant joke. You just need something a little bit funny, but don't wait for the laugh for it. Like if people laugh, great. If you come up with something fantastically funny, wonderful. But if you come up with a joke that you think is going to kill and you just sit there and wait, it's not going to work.
Yeah, if it doesn't land, just keep moving.
Right. Doesn't just
Yeah.
keep going. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about the skit, and we see all these things go viral on TikTok and Instagram and all that, where people do skits or they rap or, some kind of funky random dance in the middle of a speech. Like, I don't even know. What, what is your take and advice on people trying to get extra creative in their speeches?
I once did an interview with a Harvard psychologist for a thing I was writing, and he was talking about, the libraries are filled with books of success, but for every one of those books of success, there are, 20,000 books of failure, right? That weren't written, but exist. It's the same thing with those skits. I think for every viral one that you've seen that was pulled off well and got, shared around TikTok, there are probably 20,000 of them that fell incredibly flat and became embarrassing. And some of the ones that I've been told, like the bride that's sang Grease out of key for like 10 minutes, uh, I've props, the father that brings out the his daughter's training bra as a prop, right? Things like that. PowerPoint. There was one that was like a 30-minute PowerPoint presentation where they, tried to be funny, but it was 30 minutes of PowerPoint, and nobody even really likes PowerPoint, and so to begin with. So those things are gimmicks that could work if they're perfectly executed, but it's a stretch, and you're asking a lot out of the audience. You're creating a lot of burden on yourself to make it good. And really what people want to hear is how you feel and what makes, like, why you love them and her or him or what, and they want you to do it in an entertaining way and get out of the way so that you can go dancing and have some drinks. And that's the mission. So I think people try and do too much in these moments. It could be, there are times where you can do something really funny with a prop or a musical cue or something like that, but it's got to be really good, really good.
Yeah. And don't just assume you're going to make it real good.
Test it out with a friend that's not afraid to tell you this sucks.
I think that's the problem too, is we try to overcomplicate. It's like anything in life, right? We tend to overcomplicate things when we don't need to. And I think Vows and Speeches is a big one that we overcomplicate it. It's like the acronym KISS, right? Keep it simple, silly. You don't have to overdo it to be effective or underdo it.
Yeah, I think that's one thing we haven't talked about, which is that there are people that get up there and they get up there for 20 seconds, 30 seconds and say basically nothing. And we see that in speeches, we see it in vows. Worse, I think, even than ever, you see it in ceremonies. I mean, people go up there and you see a 3-minute, 4-minute ceremony, and there's no story, there's no getting the audience invested. I mean, it's even in a religious ceremony, you're getting the crowd whooped up into some kind of thing. It's important that you realize that this is an important moment that requires a little bit of effort. And I don't know if you saw that there was that viral TikTok of the vows where the bride says all these beautiful things, and then the groom gets up and says, "Well, I can't wait to smack that booty," and that was it. And then that was it, or something like that. And the officiant's like, "Is that it?" And he's like, "Yeah, basically." And so,
his little boy.
but I've gone to weddings where they get up there and they, I love you. You've been a great friend to me. I love your husband, and I wish you all the best in the world, all the happiness in the world. Thank you.
You really can feel the love there, can't you?
Yeah. At least it was short.
Yeah. And I get it. Some people are more introverted, more private, and they don't want to share all of that in front of their family and friends. But there's got to be a middle ground to where you can be a little bit more expressive in front of people, but also not have to give away everything that you feel.
Our job, and that's one of our missions, that most people are afraid of public speaking at some level. I'm afraid of it when I get nervous. It's not something that I do without anxiety, but I do it. But some people are terrified or they're very private. And I think in those moments, a lot of them turn these roles down because they don't think they're good writers, or they don't think they can do a good job speaking it out loud, or they're afraid. And that's where having somebody working with them, whether it's me or some of the other good people out there, allows them to go in there with content that they love. They know they've worked with somebody on the content. They're happy with what's been said. That's half of the battle. The other half is working on the delivery of it, and just feeling like, hey, I am making progress. I do feel more comfortable. And if you're somebody that cries at commercials like I do, or anything sentimental,
Yeah.
and you're worried about falling apart up there, the repetition takes some of that sting out of it. I think we might have talked about this with Vows. It's a major thing with Vows, but it's also a major. I've got a client right now who's a father of the bride, and he barely could get through the interview without crying every 3 minutes because it was such an emotional thing for him. And he's worried, but he shouldn't be, because by the time he gets done doing this 15, 20 times, he'll be able to kind of not automatically do it without feeling. We don't want that. We want you to cry a little bit,
Yeah.
but feeling still controlled.
No, that's a really brilliant point, because emotions can get overwhelming, and it's hard to hear someone vows if they're like sobbing uncontrollably and can't get the words out. So, yeah, I think if someone's afraid that you're going to lose the sentimentality by rehearsing so much, it's good to hear from you that that's not necessarily true. It just gives you controlled emotions.
Yeah, you're never going to lose the sentimentality, because when you get up there in front of your loved ones or your friends, and you're in that moment, and you've just been through this beautiful wedding and everything's just so perfect, you're going to feel it. For sure you're going to feel it. It's just that that one line that you had trouble saying, because every time you got to it caught you. You will have already pushed through that enough to be able to do it. And again, like from a professional standpoint and from an audience standpoint, we want you to cry. We want you to cry. We want you to have tears. We want you to laugh. When the audience goes, "Oh," that's what you're looking for. That's what the video is going to be there for later on. You want to see that emotion and that love. You just don't want to do it, through a bunch of snot.
What do you think about the suggestion that people have been doing more often now, and that is saving the speeches for rehearsal dinner as opposed to at the actual wedding reception?
I think it's good for when you have too many people to speak. There are times where like both the father and the mother want to say something, and it gets too weighty for the reception itself. I mean, my favorite parts of the wedding, and this is self-serving, but my favorite parts of the wedding are the spoken parts. I don't love I mean, I love to dance it with enough to, whiskey behind me,
Yeah.
but I generally, I prefer not to dance, or rather talk to people. But I love the speeches. I love these emotional moments. And I think when you don't do the vows in front of people, when you don't have a personalized ceremony, when you don't have the speeches, you're denying the audience that emotional connection to you, to why you're there, to the story itself. And that's, you have a wedding, and yes, it's a good party, but you're there because you went through a whole bunch of stuff to get there. And there's a story behind you. And one of the best parts about my job is I get to interview people in these hour-long interviews, and I get to hear these details of the stories that are almost always different from each other. I mean, there's common themes and common things that happen, but the details are very sweet and cool, and you can only get people into that if you tell them. And so I think you have to have the speeches in both, at least in the reception. And if you have too many, put them in the rehearsal dinner. But even then, you still want to make sure that you're getting things out there.
Any last piece of advice for our couples when they're planning their vows and speeches?
Like I said before, make sure that people know the timing of it. You want them to be 3 to 4 minutes. Tell them that if they go longer, tell them why that'll mess you up. The photographer has to leave after 4 hours, and you're going to lose dance time, or the venue has a hard stop, perhaps, because the food's going to get cold if dad goes 10 minutes instead of 5, because they're going to hold food service until he's done, that kind of thing. So make sure you tell them the why of why you want them to do things. Don't assume they are comfortable doing it just because they're uh, charismatic or articulate. Give them help. Whether it's our company or our company, give them help. Talk to them, and don't tell them you're giving them help because they're bad at it. Just tell them because that this is a big burden. Whether it's the ceremony officiant or the wedding party speakers, it's a big burden to do this. It's a lot of pressure, and this can only make it better for you, easier for you, and better for the audience, and it'll just make you shine that much brighter.
Speaking of your company, how can we get more information on you and it?
Sure. Look up Vows, VOWS, and Speeches. My name is Brian Franklin. You could look up Brian Franklin, speechwriter. You'd probably find me, but Vows and Speeches, and it's vowsandspeeches.com, and Vows and Speeches on Instagram, and you'll find me. I'm out there.
And we'll also have it linked in the description. Brian, thanks for being back with us. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Always fun. Thank you.
We'll be right back with Sandals Resorts, a sponsor of this podcast. Welcome back, Chillas. We're here with Wendy White, who is training and development for weddings and celebrations at Sandals Resorts and Beaches. Wendy, welcome to Bridechilla.
Thank you very much, Leah. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Pleasure to have you here. And I'm so excited for today's discussion. We had Marsha Ann on in the past, and we've discussed a lot of the different things that Sandals offers. But today we're going to talk about multi-generational weddings at beaches and honeymoons, which all about that romance, right? But let's start with the multi-generational weddings.
You have my favorite subject.
I know, right? We'll get to the honeymoons at the end, though, right? Because that usually comes at the end of all of it. Now, for those that maybe already have children and are incorporating them with the wedding, or are just family-friendly people and want to have their family really get to have a vacation time, I think beaches is such a wonderful option. Can you tell us why that is and what it offers?
Absolutely. Listen, Beaches is our sister resorts. So we have currently 2. One in Turks and Caicos and one in Negril, Jamaica. And the concept, of course, started when our couples who were going to Sandals on their wedding or honeymoon started having families and wanted to continue that same vibe, that concept of all-inclusive. Then we built that Beaches brand in the late 90s. So in the next few years, we have many more coming online. And they'll be in Barbados, St. Vincent, Jamaica, as well as Exuma, the Bahamas. So very excited to see that the brand is expanding so much, considering a destination wedding with multi-generational. I truly believe that Beaches does answer that question. Why? Because we have something for everybody. And when I say that, it's very important to realize that it isn't just the wedding. The wedding is the cherry on top of this fantastic wedding cake. But ultimately, people are coming in for a few days prior and they're enjoying vacation. And for the children, you've got kids camp. And when I say that, I mean from 0 up to 17. So if you have a baby, you actually have people who can care for your baby one-on-one. But as they get older, the kids want to be with other kids their age. Right. And enjoy all the festivities. It's like, playing on the beach and going to the water park and doing arts and crafts and baking cookies with Cookie Monster. So a lot of fun for the kids. And that's essential because, look, as a parent, when you have kids and the kids are happy, you're happy. And so the parents can now relax and enjoy and do what they want to do, whether that be, hang out on the beach or go to the spa or have cocktails at the swim pool bar, by all means. But there is so much for every generation to enjoy. And ultimately, where you really see it all coming together is at dinner, when you have all the different age groups and everybody's sharing about their day. And, it's such a warm, welcoming vibe. And I really love being able to share that experience with people because I live it.
You mentioned Cookie Monster, and I love it because you do have a partnership with Sesame Street, and you have a lot of things coming up in the works as well. Tell us about all these fun activities for when you do have children involved.
Well, so because of this long-term partnership with Sesame Street, there are so many different activities. Like you have the characters, of course, marching in parades and doing entertainment on stage, but it's the interactiveness with the children that touches my heart. So when you see a birthday party and you have your favorite character there hosting you, or you have a tuck-in service with your favorite character, so imagine that experience in your room or suite, just the family with the character of choice. They also do now yoga, which I'm a huge proponent of.
What?
So you
Me
have
too.
yoga for the kid with the characters. So it's just so much more fun to have that interactiveness.
I'm like a big kid. I want to do yoga with Big Bird. Like that sounds so much fun.
They won't stop you. Listen, we all know every age group loves to get involved with the characters.
That's so great. So let's get back to the wedding part because Beaches offers a lot when it comes to the wedding day. And not just the wedding day. Let me actually rephrase that because as soon as you arrive, there's welcome parties and there's things that, excursions for the group and stuff. So kind of break all of that down, what you have to offer.
I'd like to sort of take people through it in the way that it might unfold. So, as friends and family all begin to arrive and they're checking into their room or suite, when we have an abundance of accommodation. So you pick based on the demographics of your group. If you need cribs, we have cribs. If you want bunk beds for the kids, we have that too. But if it's just a group of single women, I also have all kinds of accommodation that would work really well for them. And so specifically, I do want to highlight our brand new village, Treasure Beach,
Ooh.
which opened March the 1st at Beaches, Turks and Caicos. Now, this is like built from the ground up, and it is phenomenal. It's 101 1 to 4 bedroom suites.
Wow.
And so when I say that, they are fully outfitted with all the latest amenities and absolutely top tier. Each of the villages does have its own feel and vibe. You have restaurants, you have an infinity pool, but it's important to know that you have access to the entire resort. So you're not limited. You go and choose to spend time or dine wherever you wish, but important to realize that this just opened.
Yeah.
And then after your folks have, of course, checked in and gotten settled, what I feel is a great way to kick off a celebration is to begin with that welcome cocktail party. So, your friends and family find in their room a little itinerary, and it shows you what's happening for the wedding event. Leading up to it, of course, starts with a private welcome cocktail party in an area that has been chosen just for them. There are so many spots. The bride and groom will have those conversations well in advance to determine where do we want to have each and every one of our celebratory events. So we start with that welcome cocktail party. Everybody's getting together. You've got hot and cold hors d'oeuvres. You've got an open bar. But also, what I like to say is add an element of Caribbean music. There's so many options. But for me, I would choose a steel pan band or,
yes, that's what I was thinking.
There's something to bring that vibe up. And then, of course, everybody can from there choose to pick what restaurant they want to dine in. But usually you will find the wedding event itself happens a few days after everybody has arrived.
So you have time to kind of get settled in and get acclimated?
You got it. So I like to suggest, listen, let's organize, either an excursion or some beach activities. We can have some competitiveness if you'd like, with beach volleyball. One thing to bring the entire group together, which really makes sense, is a catamaran cruise. It is something that we offer at each of our properties, and, they have this to themselves. It's just that group. Off they go for 2 to 3 hours. You've got food, drink, music. Everybody's sailing around, and there'll be a point where they will drop anchor and the folks can jump off. and go snorkeling or go swimming and just have some fun in the water.
Fun.
To me, one of the absolute highlights to a group celebratory event because it's a great opportunity for everybody to just relax and unwind and spend quality time, you know?
True island vibes. So I think it's important to note for everyone too is, planning a wedding can be stressful. And we talk about that on the show quite a bit, obviously. And one of the great things about Beaches and Sandals is your team is really incredible and helps to plan everything, kind of takes that stress off of you. So tell us about your team and how you can put on these family-friendly weddings thanks to what you offer.
I absolutely love working with these people because from start to finish, just, know that these are well-trained and very experienced and very empathetic people because look, we know that it's something that is very important part of your life and the planning is essential to ensuring that bride and groom are comfortable and that everything is taken care of. So leading up to just before departure, you're working with a wedding planner who is very well versed on your property that you are going to and takes the time to spend with you talking about all your visions, what you feel you want, but also the entertainment and the food. As we proceed, and now it's time, point of arrival. So there's a resort wedding team that has received the entire file, if you will, via email. And so they've already prepped. They're ready and waiting for you. So when the bride and groom have checked into their room or suite, there is a welcome letter for them and inviting them to come by the wedding lounge the following day. So we always give, folks a chance to relax, unpack, unwind. And the next day is when we really sit down and spend an hour. And in that hour, you're reviewing all the finite details. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or change? It's an opportunity to really view every one of the venues that you've selected for each and every one of your events. So again, it allows us opportunity to make a change if need be, but really does help to settle the nerves to say, hey, this is becoming a reality and our team's got you. We've got banquet, catering, wedding staff, everybody's there to do all of the setup and the execution so that all you need to do is show up and enjoy yourself.
And you give ideas on the website on how you can design it, the different looks and vibes, but you're not stuck with that one particular look. You can really make it your own. So let's talk about honeymoon. Because oftentimes with these all-inclusive opportunities, you can also just make it right into your honeymoon, whether you want the family there or not, right? So let's talk about what you offer when it comes to honeymoon packages.
I love that you said that because with a destination wedding, you'll find that the honeymoon really begins once, the crowd has departed. So you will find that couples will either choose to extend their stay at the same resort or honeymoon hop.
I like honeymoon hop.
Oh yeah, I love the term because there's so many options. You can start in Jamaica at Beaches and Grill. Now, we have 7 Sandals there, so you may want to go to a different resort either in Negril or Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, or the South Coast. You have options. And of course, the transfers are provided by us. So again,
great.
You're being taken to your next stop. On the other hand, listen, you can go to a different island. For my own daughter's wedding, we had it at Beaches, Turks and Caicos with the whole family. And when it was time for the honeymoon, most of us were packing up ready to go. They were already headed to the airport, going over to the next island, which was Nassau, because it's a nonstop flight. It's like 30 minutes. So when I say island hopping, we're the experts. We know what we're doing. This is easy.
That sounds so much fun. So let's get to the honeymoon time. Mm-hmm. You guys have specific packages and different things that you offer. So tell us about some of these wonderful features.
So I guess where I'd love to begin is, imagine yourself in this incredible romantic honeymoon suite where you've got your very own private pool sanctuary, you've got dedicated butler service, you've got 24/7 room service, an in-room bar with your choice of premium alcohol. It's everything is catered to you. And it's your choice, obviously, which island, which resort, which room category. But for me, we created honeymoon suites for these people. These were designed with romance in mind.
And you have the free honeymoon package available, but tell us how we become eligible for that.
The package is now available for any couple who has wed within 1 year of their honeymoon. So in the past, it was within 30 days. We've extended that, so now it's about 1 year. All we ask is that you upload a copy of one of the three: a marriage certificate, a marriage license, or a wedding invitation. Because I realize in some instances you will have people that are traveling almost immediately following the wedding. And in that case, you may not have the certificate as of yet. So in that case, you'll upload a copy of the wedding invitation. All we're looking for is the wedding date. Okay, that's it. That's the validation. Yes, they are traveling within. And so we have that uploaded to our landing page. And our team on resort are the ones who will ensure that the lovely couple gets that welcome package. They are receiving a lovely bottle of sparkling wine upon arrival. They do get a nice turn-down service on their first night with the flower petals on the bed.
Oh.
And breakfast in bed on the morning of your choice, featuring mimosas, my favorite part.
Love it.
Those are the key things, but I also like to extend it and say, listen, there's also a romantic honeymoon dinner at a resort specialty restaurant where, we put you in a special table, and there are other little, perks that show up. And it just matters because when I tell you, Leah, we built the brand on couples celebrating honeymoons. That was such a big part of the business at the very front end when I first began. And so it's important to recognize that we have people who got married at Sandals back in 1981 when we opened, and they still come back to Sandals on vacation. And they're celebrating their anniversary. They may do a vow renewal.
Yeah.
But it's just so lovely when you meet people who've been coming to you over the years.
I love it. And I love that you extended it to a year because a lot of people, either just that extended weekend or week that they do the wedding, they're maybe exhausted from it and don't want to do the honeymoon, or you only get so much vacation time and time off of work, or you have other obligations, coming up. So this is a nice way to also kind of break it up and look forward to it and maybe decide on a different location if you want to mix it up, or maybe you want to come back to the same one, but it gives you an opportunity to see the island at a different time of year and to really extend out your vacations. So before we wrap up here, what else should we know about beaches when it comes to hosting weddings or honeymoons?
Everything is about the bride and groom. We go above and beyond to ensure that not only are they well looked after and cared for, but we want to provide them with the best that the industry has to offer. So our service is very elevated. It's very handhold and pampered, and it's a stress-free experience because look, when you come to our resorts, it's all inclusive, of course, but where it becomes stress-free, and this is very, very important. We don't allow tipping. So what that means is your clients are putting their wallet and their passport in their safe as they check in and do not need to reach for it until they are ready to check out. And so having said that, what that does is it removes any kind of stress. Do I have money? Do I need to tip the bartender? All of that goes away. And now it's a level playing field. Everybody is treated equally, and it's a kindness and it's a sincerity that is extended above and beyond. So people really do appreciate that, and that is what I believe drives the repeat business. because of the service that's extended.
No, that's such a great point. It does take a load off of you if you've never done an all-inclusive before, like having that is more important than you realize. You don't realize how much that stress of like, oh, let me have my purse or my wallet and make sure I have cash on hand, or do I need to convert because I'm not used to traveling maybe outside of the US or whatever country I'm from. You don't have to worry about any of that, and it's great. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for being with us. How can we get more information on beaches, Sandals, and get to plan our next trip and wedding?
Well, we look forward to hosting everyone. And I just want to remind you that we have our landing page, which is sandals.com or beaches.com. Our 1-800 number, 1-800-SANDALS, 1-800-BEACHES. For weddings, 1-877-SANDALS or beaches. But most importantly, please reach out to your travel advisor. They are the experts on our product. They can assist you and help you navigate which resort, which island.
And we'll have the information for you in the description, so make sure you check it out. Wendy, thanks for being with us, and we'll talk to you soon.